Welcome to Talk Too Late, the show in which we talk about games and game stories 2 years after their release. This is a bit of a special segment in our May 2018 episode. In the second segment, we're gonna run a retrospective of a pretty big game that was a big deal in this generation of console. We're talking about Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. I'm joined by HeadacheMik and I'm joined by Prosil.
Hi guys.
Hey guys.
So we're treading on troubled water here because we've been meaning to do this episode for quite some time, and the reality is that it took me a very long time to play this game. As you know, this is Game Too Late. I play games 2 years after they're released, and that was the intention, but I did not play this game up until last month. I only played this in 2020, and I would like to thank HeadacheMik and Prosil for helping me in staying absolutely spoiler free. But I think that I had sensed something was wrong or strange with the game from the very beginning of the game. But let's not go there yet. I want to first explain that I have really enjoyed Metal Gear Solid 5. I have played it only now, so in 2020, approximately 4 years and a half after its release. When did you guys play Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain?
2018.
So, Day one.
Day one.
Actually, a little earlier than day one, because I took a day off from work, and I think I was able to. I was already able to download it some days before, and the game I think unlocked a couple of hours before.
There is that. I really want to go back to your first hands-on experience and first experience with the game. I want to start from there and open this episode from there. Our retrospective episode. What struck me is that Metal Gear Solid 5, more than a lot of other games, and perhaps more than any games out there, really polarized me in the fact that I was having a certain experience and I was enjoying myself throughout the game, and I had an opinion and an impression of the game as I was going along, and I was playing and learning more about the game. I was forming this opinion, and then I finished the game, I completed it, and that opinion sort of flipped, as in perhaps this is due to me really giving a pass to Hideo Kojima's approach to video game. So the game is good, but if it wasn't a Metal Gear Solid game, I would probably say oh, why is this like that? Instead, I just enjoyed the ride, and I really had a good time with the game. And then by the end of the game, a lot of things had sort of started to amount to a lot more, as in a lot of little details and a lot of little flows that I picked up here and there. By the end of the game, they started to weigh a little more, and by the time that the end of the narrative and the end of the gameplay, well, as I said, reached this conclusion, at that point I could really sum up, sort of draw the line and say, okay, the whole experience amounts to this. This is the final calculation, the final result of adding all these elements that I have collected throughout my experience, and somehow the final result was less than the singular parts. It's a strange feeling, but as in it is as if I was taking all these little elements that kept me entertained, but then when you put them together, they didn't satisfy me. And it doesn't. I don't mean to say that the ending didn't satisfy me as a singular thing, but it's the whole thing. It's a bit like
the journey
saying,
to there.
Yeah, it's a bit like saying, oh, I eat a cake and the cake is nice, but the cake is not a meal. If you know what I mean. A cake you shouldn't have a cake as if it was a meal. I'm not gonna eat a whole cake, you know. You should have a cake as a thing on its own, and maybe that little slice of cake was ground zeros, which I've absolutely loved. What do you guys
Some
think
even
about
say that
this?
the cake is a lie.
The cake is also like so what,
This case.
I wanted to I don't know if you guys agree with this comparison that I've made, this sort of strange comparison, but I wanted to go back to when you started the game, when you first played it, and I wanted to you know, check with you if you also had the feeling that when you first played it you had an opinion and an impression, and if it changed for you after the end of the game and after you could evaluate it as a whole work, as a whole piece of video game art. What do you guys think? Who wants to go first? And try not to go out of boundaries. We're going to talk about everything else later. We're going to talk about gameplay and narrative, but what do you think about your first playthrough? Did you have fun having it, playing it for the first time, and how did you feel after playing it for the first time?
Prosil, if you're gonna want to go first.
Cool. So I was very involved when I started the game. I really loved it. But once I finished the first part, I realized something was wrong. And I think it cannot be a second part here. And then
you're talking about just to clarify for whoever is watching now, you're talking about the ending of the first
ending, which is the ending at the end, because that's the ending. The game ends there. That's the thing that changed. My opinion about the game.
So we're talking about up until you kill. Well, you don't even kill it, but up until Skullface dies.
Yeah, we can talk about that as well, but I didn't want to go too much into details. So briefly, to keep it short, I had an opinion. I really enjoyed the intro, and then when you play the second missions, you realize the game is a bit about something else, not about the story, because the mission you do don't bring the story forward. And then when I reached the ending, and I said, wow, so I didn't even kill the guy, so I was left without any satisfaction. I get this stuff about part 2, like there is a second enemy or something else that I didn't fight. It cannot be. And from there, my opinion about the game changed. And
so
then
so I'm not the only one. At least it was the same for you. You also had fun, and then at some point you were like, what?
Yeah, no, but I had fun for the whole playthrough until I did all the side quests. Actually, I was surprised that at the end you get like story for Quiet. I wasn't expecting that, but all the rest stays there, and all the hype that he created about this boss is vanished. There is no hype, no sense of reward. That's the biggest problem that I have with the game.
HeadacheMik, what was your first experience like, and what was your first evaluation during the game and after the playthrough?
Yes, like it happened very differently from both of you, but mostly from you gameplay. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Because I've seen I followed the game before it was actually out, and I've watched all the trailers. Now, nowadays, for those who follow me on Twitch, for you know that I don't watch trailers anymore.
No,
I don't even read what's behind a book cover.
You seem to know better these days.
Yes, that was the last occasion in which I watched trailers in my life, Peter, with some minor exceptions, very minor. And the trailers were really well made and really hyped me up.
Absolutely. So, one can say anything about Hideo Kojima, but you've got to recognize that he knows how to make trailers, to put them together, guys.
And that's going to be one of my points for later.
Okay.
Spoilers though in trailers. That's the problem I have with it.
Yeah, like we don't know if Konami made those trailers or he did them themselves. We're not sure, but
knowing the guy, because apparently on that Stranding it's kind of the same.
He did all the trailers himself on that Stranding. We know that for a fact. So maybe.
Probably.
It's kind of weird. Anyway, I booted up the game, and this is a main series game. It's not a spin-off. It's not a PSP video game, and although I knew that I needed to have played and finished Peace Walker to enjoy it, I played Peace Walker. I played a lot of Peace Walker, but I never finished it. And I was alright with it. I was okay with it. It felt kind of weird, but then I was like, this is a main series chapter, so I'm expecting some stuff. And hyped up with the trailers, I was expecting a complete, like, I don't want to say like a game like 1, 2, 3, and 4, but you know, something close to. And as soon as I booted up the game, it felt kind of weird at the very moments, because like the moments when the character, you know, you basically have to follow the other character, like all those staged moments are things that never really happen in other Metal Gear.
You mean,
which is not,
you mean the first mission, the hospital?
Yeah. Which is a good mission, but like I'm gonna say this a lot. Metal Gear Solid 5 did a lot of things that no other Metal Gear ever did.
Mm-hmm.
And this is both a pro and a con, in my opinion. There's a lot of pro and a lot of con. And this was one of the first things that I noticed that was kind of weird, but it was beautiful. Like, and the cutscenes on the hospital, they are still nowadays breathtaking. You're breathtaking. But then, as soon as I got into the actual game, after having played Peace Walker for a while, I realized that it was all about the mother base things, and I kinda was upset about it. I was not upset, like I didn't expect it on a main title, and
I was already disappointed. At what point did you realize that this was very much a Peace Walker game?
Immediately,
yeah.
But
the game throws a lot of stuff at you, but we're gonna talk about all that later anyway.
Immediately, but I always was like, okay, now something's gonna happen that's gonna
you give the game sort of faith and hope, and you give it leeway at the beginning.
To the game or to Kojima?
You know, you give Kojima's game a bit of credit, and you let it. You say like, you know what? Let's just say let's see what happens, because maybe this is.
Especially because Ground Zeroes was a complete main series. Like Ground Zero, for as little as it was, it didn't prepare us for a mother-based development stuff thing. You know, Ground Zero seemed like an actual entry in the saga, an actual like a sneaking mission. It was kind of like a Metal Gear Solid 1 in, you know, many aspects, and I kind of expected a Metal Gear Solid 1 in a sense.
Did you have the feeling you were playing with Big Boss during the game? Like, did you feel yourself like Big Boss?
No.
I did. That's
we're gonna talk about that in a little bit. But anyway, in conclusion, so Mick, do you think that your opinion didn't change so much after the ending because you were already sort of disenfranchised with the game by the time you ended? Did you get burned at the end, or did you get burned before the ending? That's what I'm trying to say.
I think that to summarize, like, and give you an actual answer, I can tell you that at the very ending, at the very cutscene that ends the game, I stood like silent for a couple of minutes, and I wasn't disappointed. I was like, okay. So maybe it was in line with the expectation that grew on me up to that point. Maybe I was not the most disappointed of the ending because I was disappointed earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, this was a warm up. We're gonna go deeper now. I'm gonna ask you to go deeper into your scars, into your emotional scars with this game. But as it was necessary, perhaps this little retrospective took a bit of a negative turn. But I don't think we are the only people out there that feel this way. So my next question for you guys is my request actually is for you guys to follow me in reviewing the game and going over the game in a certain way by looking at the gameplay value, so the gameplay and production value related to the gameplay of the mother base when you are in your mother base and in your codec, the things that are gamey, that you manage and that you play with in that sort of management gameplay, in those gameplay loops of HQ management, and also in the gameplay of infiltration and the singular mission. And then I want you guys to treat the narrative and all the narrative aspects quite, as a separate thing. So because things are gonna surely gonna take a sour taste, and we're gonna go deep into analyzing what didn't quite work, I want you guys to start, and I want to start by asking you what you guys thought actually has worked, what you think was really good about the gameplay and the narrative. We can do it separately. You can do only the positive of one, and then we talk about the narrative, but perhaps that's difficult, so feel free to separate it when you talk about it. I want to ask you what you think, maybe 3 things that worked very well in terms of gameplay, production value, and just the fun that you had at the beginning of learning and exploring and discovering the game, and 3 other good things that you liked about the narrative. Just to give you a cue, I'm gonna say a few. For example, I think that this game, gameplay wise, the shooting part is great. The shooting is precise, it's fun, the weapons, the feel of the shooting is actually probably better than the other Metal Gear, because the shooty is more shooty. There's a lot more shooter. It feels more of a shooter than Metal Gear Solid 3, and it's very Far Cry. I mean, this game has Far Cry like tagging enemies with your binocular, and it does it so much better than Far Cry. So it beats a lot of game at their game, so to speak. And another incredible things that I've really loved about this game for the gameplay was the incredible attention to details for the audio design and soundtrack. It's just, I know that's claiming, mentioning soundtrack is a bit lame, like you only buy license, but it's not only a matter of getting the songs in the game. It's not as simple as that. I thought that also the audio design of the areas, like when you are indoor, you can literally tell where the soldiers are. If you play with your headphones, the positional audio is super precise and it's incredible. I was able to tell when a soldier was behind a wall, when a soldier was on the other side of a hangar, because you could feel the sound of a hangar or feel the sound of a tunnel. And in fact, you would wish that the game had more indoor locations, because it doesn't have a lot. But yeah, that's another thing that I think was incredible. And the soundtrack was, to me, it's really, really good in terms of taste, in terms of just the choosing of all these tunes was really, really cool. And they managed, I think it helped me to frame the experience in a time context. When you listen to the song, you can say like, oh shit, yeah, it's the 80s, it's the 70s. Like you go back to that sort of feel. Maybe it didn't place them in timeline precisely, because it's not music from that era, but it's definitely music that help you get into the atmosphere of those years. And yeah, for some reason I really liked it, and I think that the music was used in a way that improved the gameplay and the fun, and that's a few things that work for me in terms of gameplay. And in terms of narrative, you could say that the game took some bold decisions, such as quiet, which I was really uncertain with at the beginning. I was like, who is this half naked, full naked lady, 90% naked lady? I thought it was a joke. I thought like a character like that made no sense and could not be believable. And by the end of it, I really loved her. I thought she was kick-ass, and I thought that they managed to characterize her well, even though she didn't have a voice, really. Well, literally she didn't speak. So I think that was really cool. And narrative wise, I don't have a lot of praises to say, other than the fact that I really enjoyed the development of Quiet as a character, and I have enjoyed the cinematographics side of Kojima's work, which is as usual very good. Like the cutscenes are nice, when he does that stuff. The narrative parts are really nice, and you wish there was more of it. And I'm gonna shut up for a little while. I'm gonna ask you guys to tell me some positive sides for you on the gameplay and on the narrative. Who wants to go first?
I can go. So right off the bat, the gameplay I really liked. It's a renovated gameplay, refurbished game compared to Metal Gear classics like the third one, the fourth one. Like you got more mobility, more choices, more options. You can approach missions in several ways. You can do missions in totally different ways, and it's more open. It's also interesting how come you can just finish the mission or do the side quests, and that brings the level and the gameplay and the level design to a different whole level. So I really like the part. The shooting, as you said, has been improved. So definitely all this part is great. In terms of narrative, I did like a lot the tape stuff because you are inclined or keen to get them all and listen to them. And you can do it while you play or while you mess around, because it's a game where you can, like very much like GTA, you can mess around to find different animals, different plants or stuff you want to do. And keeping it shortly, I like the music like you did. This is the gameplay and the narrative that I like. Shall I speak about what I didn't like?
No, let's ask HeadacheMik what he liked, what he wants to praise on gameplay and narrative.
I also like the narrative. I also like the hype. Like, this game is very good at building hype. Like, you start the first mission, it builds hype. So this is what I liked.
HeadacheMik.
Yeah, like personally, also being that we are professionals doing this, like we it's not that we prepared this in advance, but we make our researches in advance. And I had prepared what I liked. I actually had to think about it, but I prepared only one thing. Now, asking me three,
you don't
put
have
me
to say three, but I just wanted you to make a little extra effort just to see if there was any.
No, exactly. So definitely what I was, and I am still sure that I loved about this game, and that I think very few games have done that greatly, is the cinematography. The cameras, the lighting, the lens
pretty
flares.
much the last thing I was saying, like the beauty of the cinematics of it.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
And also how professionally everything is done while narrating a scene. Like, it also almost feels like there's a real experienced cameraman behind, the camera, panning stuff in a completely amazing, harmonious, musically way. It's poetic. It's one way of, like, that thing only narrates the scene without,
because it literally uses the language of cinema. So he uses the camera shots, the framing, the camera movements, and the editing and the soundtrack. He uses it. I'm saying he, but obviously I'm not talking about Kojima himself.
Yeah, of course.
Whole his team is probably incredibly keen and very devoted to having a cinematography culture.
Yes.
And that reflects in how they approach the creation of the cutscenes, which are incredible.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is not new to Metal Gear Solid 5. The cutscenes of Metal Gear Solid 4 are beautiful. To this day, there are incredible cutscenes. The one in the church, the one in the river. Metal Gear Solid 4 has got some incredible cutscenes, but we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, anything else you wanted to say on the narrative side and gameplay?
The narrative, the gameplay, I'm gonna glaze over.
Why? You didn't have fun? It's a good gameplay.
It's a funny game. Yeah, it's a very funny game to play, and it's a game that.
It's one of the best Far Cry games there is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a game that easily could never get boring about combat and about gameplay in general. But it is, to me, it's very flawed, the gameplay. But if I have to put another thing that I really enjoyed, which then became a thing that actually frustrated me, I really loved how the game, like what Prosil said, the hype, also in the middle of the game, but also before the game release. Like, the trailers were holding in so many secrets. It was like it was all hard to decode. Like, my brother kept sending me videos about theories basically every day, and it was all a very beautiful game. But then it turned out to be like the game tells you. Sorry.
Okay.
That's
okay.
That's what I like.
Okay, I think we highlighted some pretty strong points of the gameplay. It is still a game that I would recommend playing. I would recommend people to play it, absolutely, hands down.
Yeah, you have to. It's like a piece of history in this generation.
Yeah.
Did this ever happen? This thing that you're being shown, did this ever happen in the game?
It doesn't happen. He's right.
I don't.
Yeah. There's so many, like I told you, the trailer. Sorry.
I think this sort of instances, it's perfect. Maybe the perfect segue to go into my next question, obviously, which is a number of things. But I'm gonna leave it to you guys to discuss and put out there what elements you think were the weakest, or what elements you think were the ones that really didn't make it work. But before we unleash that monster conversation, I wanted you guys to let you know, the two of you, that today is the 10th year anniversary of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker for PSP. And you can know about this if you follow our Facebook page, our Game Too Late Facebook page, and if you follow us, you will know about things like that. Exactly today, 10 years ago, we are recording this episode on the 29th of April 2010. Oof, 2010. Nice. The game came out in Japan for PlayStation Portable. That console, yes, that's right. And I want, this in the game, you can recruit Hideo, this soldier who is a game designer. And his quote in his bio, it says 70% of my existence is made of movies, which is one of his famous quotes. And then he adds, "It is up to you to decide what to do with the remaining 30%," which is nice. I think it's already a play on the fact that that the game is trying to put you in Big Boss's shoes. Like, okay, you decide the game, because I'm out of here. Bye, guys. I'm off. And anyway, this is a little trivia that I have managed to pick for today for you guys. What a strange coincidence that we are running a Metal Gear Solid 5 review on a Peace Walker anniversary, because what I think is fundamentally flawed with the game is that this is not a Metal Gear Solid 5. This is a continuation to Peace Walker. In story, it's as if like you've done your best work with Metal Gear Solid 3, and then you carried on the storyline with with the elements, and you did Peace Walker, which is not really a Metal Gear game. It's a base management simulator with isolated mission in tiny sandboxes where you have to carry out specific missions. And Metal Gear Solid 5 is Peace Walker 2 in that you do base management simulation with specific missions, which end up being redundant and similar over time, and this redundancy make it feel like something is missing throughout the experience for me. I have a lot to say about things that didn't quite work, but I want to hear it from you guys first. What did you think were the major flaws? And again, I ask you to maybe, if you can, separate it gameplay wise and narrative wise. Narrative, there's a lot to say, so maybe you want to go with gameplay first.
So, shall I start?
Sure.
So, just a note, when you say it's not a Metal Gear 5, I don't agree, because that's up to Kojima to decide. And I think that if this shouldn't have been a Metal Gear 5, it wouldn't have released as such. It's definitely a Metal Gear Solid one, because Ops doesn't touch the Metal Gear Solid saga. This in a way does, because goes back to Snake, whereas the Operation one. Sorry, I don't remember the name now.
Operation. I was mentioning Peace Walker.
Yeah. Peace Walker. Sorry. Yeah, because there is the Operation one. You sorry.
Yeah.
I never played that one, so I don't remember.
Actually.
I didn't. It's beautiful.
Yeah. All right. So I think this one goes back to Metal Gear Solid, which is the Solid Snake saga, which in a way it does bring, you know, the Metal Gear 3 one there and the second one because Snake is there. But this is a connection to that in a way, and it gives you an idea of why Metal Gear exists. Yeah. You may like it or not,
but I do disagree with you that the intention was there, but then he didn't do it. We do not even see Snake. Sorry, you know, the young Snake. We do see Liquid, and he plays a big part, but then we don't get to see. So I know what you're trying to say, and you're actually right. This is a Metal Gear Solid 5 because it takes it from story-wise, it takes it from the Peace Walker years, and then it links back, or he was meaning to link back to the first Metal Gear Solid, but I think that the journey there was not completed. And that's a narrative flow.
Absolutely, yeah. We get that into a bit.
Sorry. So go ahead with your flows for gameplay and narrative. What were you saying?
Flows for me are three main flows. The first one is on the plot, and I'll do a brief touch on everything. I talked before about the sense of vibe. You have a huge sense of vibe, huge sense of revenge. The gameplay, as you wish, yeah. Biggest flaw there is the lack of bosses. In any Metal Gear, you got characterization of bosses, and boss fights are like you get stuck. Or when you fight the Fury, when you fight the End, you've got these bosses that are all peculiar to be fought. And you don't do it in this game. You got these skull gears and skulls, and pretty much you beat them the same way.
You get quick time events, and that's it.
Exactly, and also when you fight the big boss, the final boss, you don't even fight it. Like they could have done so many good things, like, you know, killing Snake, or fighting Snake and killing and dying. They could have done everything. Like it would have been epic, and they just wasted it. So that there are no bosses. This is the weakest point in terms of gameplay. The second weak point is the open world but no close location. And close location, as you say, that could have been great for this game. And I think they focus on two huge locations, two huge maps. Probably we were expecting a third one for finishing the game, maybe Outer Heaven, maybe whatever you want to do, maybe where you fight with Snake in just the final part, or whatever, like something around that. It could have done easily, would have been fitting perfectly. So this is gameplay and design, let's say. The biggest problem that I have is plot-wise. Plot-wise is there is a sense of inconsistency, sense of incompletion, and throughout the plot and the story, because he creates, in Ground Zero, he creates this big hype, big sense of revenge that doesn't add up when you finish the game. It does the exact same thing the moment that he introduced the fireman. You've got this guy, you want to know who he is, what he does, why he's there, and it's the beginning. You're gonna think like this is gonna be a big fight. I'm gonna smash it. And same goes for Psycho Mantis. You never get even a minimal confirmation that it's Psycho Mantis. And the other stuff about that being the spirit of the sense of the revenge of Volgin, that's pure bullshit. That's the bullshit of the game. This is right off the bat cheating on the fan, because why is this guy chasing the big boss fake character rather than the real one? It doesn't add up. And
but then it's like, oh no, it's not you. Then I'm gonna die.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so lame. Yeah.
It's lame. It's like the sense of inconsistency. Like the bigger thing is this: there is no payoff. And to try to fit the payoff, they try to put inside some bullshit story like the Pads one, and that doesn't make fucking sense. Like all this stuff is not Kojima genius, it's scattered Kojima's idea that he put in there, and he tried to justify. But as I say, he was very good. I think this guy spent 5 years building the first mission, and because he knew he would have used twice in the first and in the final mission, he wrote the ending, and what's in the middle, he had no fucking idea, and it wasn't completed. This is like also because Mission 51, why is there? Why do we know it's there? Like they can hide it, they can deny it as much as they want, but this one, to me, made me realize I will never buy a Kojima game on release day. I didn't buy Death Stranding because I knew there would have been some hot shit there, and I don't like this about Kojima anymore. I prefer to play the whole games. Like, I prefer to play Metal Gear 1, replay it as much as I want because it's complete game. And same goes for Metal Gear, the NES version. This one for me remains a great game. For me, this is like a super game, one of the game I played the most. But when it comes to the weak points, also with the middle thing about part 2, and the trailer, that is bullshit,
split.
and it's not there.
That's split. It goes back to what you were saying about creating hype. When you finish the first chapter, Skullface is down, you have collected Silanthropus in your base, and you think, oh my god, this is now gonna take off. At the same time, I was retrieving an achievement. You know those rewards that you get in the game from time to time in the rewards section? And the achievement was like, well done, you have listened to 85% of the tapes. I was like, hold on a second. I have 15%
also, the achievement
of the
for listening
left. If I have 15% of the tape left, it means that I numerically can track that back to a specific amount of tapes. At that moment I had calculated that I had something like 18 tapes to listen to, and I was like, oh my god, wait a second, how few tapes is chapter 2 going to have? That was a major alarm for me. What let me pass it down to HeadacheMik, and then we build some more.
Okay,
sorry, you were saying, Mick, Prosil?
No, just a thing that came into my mind I didn't mention. The other disappointment is Ocelot.
Oh yeah, my god.
Oh yeah.
This guy's like, is not the Ocelot we were used to know.
Exactly
what. Sorry, you can carry on then. Sorry.
Yeah, one of my point is definitely like we're gonna definitely agree on that. I wasn't sure we three we're gonna agree in that much on it. Anyway, gameplay wise, it's a fun game, as I said, but I just think, it's not a step forward very much. It's a game that really decides it's 2018. Sure, it goes there, it goes Far Cry, but like you can basically just run with unlimited stamina and getting close perception to a guy that is like for a second stunned, and you can knock him down, and that's it. You can do that to all the village, all the base, or you can just stay far away and just dart them all, put them all to sleep, and then the whole camp is yours, and you'll pass your time full tuning them to your base all the time. You full tune everything in that game. Sure. You want to do it. It feels good. It is good for the game. You're not forced to, but it feels good. You end up just sleeping people and full tuning them, all the gameplay wise. That's all that happens. And I was okay with that on Peace Walker. Even OPS had a thing like that. But on a main series, I want to just think about how serious and how amazing the action that I'm packing is. I want it to feel like a real hero, not like a guy that goes and basically, bribes people into joining his battle. Because like I think at this point, Big Boss can have like scouting people that go out and full turn people.
Shouldn't do it himself.
Like is an hero. Like like playing the older games, like the previous game, OPS or Peace Walker, like. Big Boss is that kind of guy that talks with a person and it really convinces you that he's fighting the good fight and you want to join him. Snake doesn't.
I have to agree that without going into the fact that Big Boss is pretty much voiceless in this game, but gameplay wise, I agree with you. Faltoning is overpowered and it tends to become the go-to strategy.
That's all you do.
Everything. And as you said, it was really good in Peace Walker on PSP because you were doing this restricted missions. And even on Peace Walker on PSP and PS3 Remastered Collection, you do it, but you obtain strong faltoning abilities a bit later on.
After a while.
Instead in this game, the game just throws a lot of stuff at you. All that discovery.
Not even mid-game you can falton like 100,000 people.
All that discovery happens very fast, and I think if I had experienced the same unlocking tree over a longer period, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Anyway.
Maybe, but I just don't want to play a Metal Gear in which my goal is to have a stronger mother base. Either that really pays off in some amazing consequences that radically change the game, or I don't really want to do that in a Metal Gear. Like, it's not what I, when I was a kid playing Metal Gear Solid 1, I was never like, oh, imagine if I could actually recruit people to join my base. And like, I like, they're completely different things, and I'm okay with it. It's a choice that the team went with, and I just just not what I was expecting. I think expectations really are a big part of why you might have liked this game or not. Yeah. And story-wise, we're doing like story-wise, right? Story-wise, like this game came out in a moment in which I personally started reading more books, and I had recently replayed most of the saga. And playing the saga when you are a little bit older, like, the story of Metal Gear is pretty much flawed, and it's pretty much not as smart as you think it is. It's a pretty good and nice and wacky, weird story, but it's not this big amazing plot. There are some good plot twists, but it's not this amazing plot. And five pretends like it learned nothing from the previous saga, and it still prefers to be shady about some arguments and some topics just to get a big reveal at the end. There's a fine line between just bullshitting your players and fooling them in a very clever way that actually makes them gasp. And I think this game doesn't know how to do it. I think the game either wants to narrate a badass story sometimes, and sometimes just wants to get creative and show you how smart it is, but it's not a smart game. It's not a smart story. It's not a good story in general. Like, we liked it just because it's Metal Gear, because we like the brand.
And I don't know if you have anything to add, but maybe even before you do that, I want to bring you guys to my biggest flaw with the narration.
Sure.
And again, there could be lots. There could be the fact that we still have to talk about the fact that, oh my god, Ocelot, one of the most incredible villains in video games history, here is some sort of fucking cheerleader. Excuse my French.
It's the wise guy.
He becomes your mentor, but it hasn't been really explained why. Yes, it explained in literally one of the last 2 or 3 tapes. It explains that Zero told Ocelot to look after you, etc., etc. But sort of mentoring you, but you don't really understand why. And literally, the game is not about Big Boss. It is about Kaz and Ocelot manipulating this guy that reveals to be an impersonator of Big Boss for the interest of Big Boss, who in the meantime should be doing some pretty interesting stuff in Outer Heaven with
imagine playing
that, all that stuff. What really kills me inside is that I believe that the overall Metal Gear Solid 5 project consisted of Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, Phantom Pain, and another chapter that focused on the Outer Heaven years, where the real Big Boss sort of had to come to terms with the existence of the Venom Big Boss impersonator, and they had to they had to nurture and look after the 2 or 3 clones of Big Boss, right? All that story part that links it to Metal Gear Solid 1 for PlayStation 1, all that stuff should have existed in maybe a separate game, a sequel to Metal Gear Solid 5, the Phantom Pain, that was called something else, Metal Gear Solid 5 something else, that we never saw, and that kills me inside. But to wrap it up, the major cardinal sin of the game, and I want your opinion on this, is that the magic trick of saying, you're gonna start the game, oh, I let you create your personalized avatar because you are Big Boss, but we need to give you a new face. You do it, and then you're not using that face, but that's fine. In the meantime, in the credits, the credits have a tendency of spoiling who's gonna show up in the mission. By the way, thank you very much. try to stay awake 4 years and a half from spoilers. Then I start the mission and it goes like featuring the skulls. Oh, thank you. And
featuring quiet.
Oh, thank you. And literally that. And then the final magic trick that it tries to pull on you doesn't work. Of course, the game is okay with you understanding that you're now really the real big boss. It does some sort of foreshadowing that this is gonna happen. There is an element of that, and on top of those hints and those little clues that you can find here and there, you also have the fact that Big Boss is not Big Boss. It doesn't talk, but to the point that it's cringy. Like some parts you're literally very just say anything, just please participate. I'm trying to play as you. Can you please be around? I mean, it's literally at some point I thought that Big Boss was actually looking at his mobile phone, because he wasn't there. He was just checking his Instagram, you know.
I legit thought he got a trauma that made him dumb and witless, you know, because he was really not speaking.
I think that if you look at the latest DLC mission where Quiet finally speaks, she may have more lines than Big Boss. You know?
Maybe.
When she tries to direct the helicopter by telling the helicopter some direction, she probably has more lines than Big Boss in the last 10 missions before then. Anyway, that trick. This is what I want your opinion on. That trick. Did it work for you? Because for me, it really didn't. Also because, again, if you play Metal Gear Solid 4, like most Metal Gear Solid 4 fan have done, they know that Big Boss at the end of Metal Gear 4 does not have...
And that's a good plot twist, by the way.
It's a nice plot twist if it worked, if it was done well.
It's just cheesy, nice plot twist that works.
It's always I think it's
again,
not...
I appreciate how this game explains to you why you have killed Big Boss in Metal Gear 2, but you didn't really kill it. It's because there was this impersonator, and this game does a really fine job at introducing the impersonator. It does a really fine job at doing that, but the whole trick didn't work for me, because you have kept me in the dark for 50 missions, for fuck's sake. And this should have done in a different way, because I would have liked to have a situation where you actually piece it together a lot more, and then you come to terms with reality, and then you maybe face some consequences, but you never do. And I wanted to have your opinion, because I think that a lot of the flows of the game, ultimately narrative-wise, they originate from that. Of course, there will be a lot more to say about the fact that Skullface is killed without any reason, and a lot of other things are not explored. Solid Snake is not even present at all, and you have the feeling that he should be present at some point, but he doesn't. And the whole story, I'm sorry, is not completed when you have a 10-year-old kid flying away with Sahelanthropus. You spend 40 missions trying to obtain Sahelanthropus, and then a kid runs away with it, and you go like, well, it's fine. And the game ends.
I guess we'll get him.
Damn, that
eventually.
Kid took away our Sahelanthropus. What are we gonna do? And, you know, that's it. Story-wise, the game is incomplete, but even leaving that aside, I think that the one that annoyed me during the gameplay was like, who is this guy? What do you guys think?
Why is this guy?
And how did the trick work for you? The fact that, you know, the first mission is the last mission. Did you get it? At what point did you get it? And if you have watched my stream on my Twitch channel, I think, Mick, you were there when I played the first mission. And I remember saying, Mick,
first and last.
This mission, this guy next to me looks like Big Boss. I remember telling you, this guy next to me...
You told me, like, he moves like Big Boss, I think you told me.
He has the gun stance like Big Boss.
Yep.
And instead, I feel like I'm some sort of strange guy because I'm not saying big bossy things. I leave it to you guys.
But I think that's the I mean, if I can start.
Sure.
I think that's on purpose. Like, I don't think Kojima wanted to hide that part. it's pretty clear that Big Boss doesn't have a fake arm at the end of Metal Gear 4, doesn't have the horn, but he still creates some interest in you.
Sure.
Then, if you ask me, like, should have him involved Kiefer Sutherland in the voice for having that little lines? Probably not. I think Kojima is not the first time that he's killed by his own ego of trying to do things differently and it doesn't accomplish. Metal Gear 2 for me was a big failure in those regards. It doesn't work in Metal Gear 2. I'm sorry. He was running out of ideas as well. Like the same idea that Ocelot has liquid spirit in his arm. It doesn't work, but Kojima can do it. And so we've been used to the fact that Kojima can do pretty much everything because this is what he says. But and the reality
as you
is
said, because it's Kojima, because he tends to do it, you go along with the play. And you said, like, you give him credit and you give him faith. But then, damn it, 50 missions? You make me play to the very end to just tell me that I am not playing as Big Boss? Why?
I'm sorry, your Big Boss is in another castle, basically.
Seriously, just
but
cheap.
The game is not complete. So I think if Konami did fire him, took the project off, it's because realized that something was odd. I don't believe that Kojima is right. I believe that Kojima is probably the one with the biggest fault. I don't think Kojima wanted to cheat the fans, but he really believes that this is his project, period. Whereas, when I saw they releasing the Revenge, not the Revenge, the Metal Gear, with the one with the zombies. Resistance?
Or
whatever.
Revenge.
Whatever. Metal Gear Solid, whatever.
Zombie ever.
I think that was just on purpose to bother him, not because they wanted to make money, because they shoot a video reaction of him. The biggest problem here is that Kojima has been devoured by his own ego, the same way it happened with
That's very true.
And I think he just wanted to say, this is not Big Boss, this is what he wanted to say. Although at the beginning has been 9 years you've been in coma, in a coma state, so you may be thinking, this is my imagination, is something else, is this really happening, is this fireman there? So it's all about this stuff, is about creating hype, and so I think that the trick does work because the ending is good. When you have the final chapter with Big Boss and they explain you the thing, and then you have the logo changing from Diamond Dogs to Outer Heaven. Diamond Dogs, you never heard about them. So it's clear that this is the message that Kojima wants to give you. This is not Big Boss. And probably the reason why he changed the voice was that one. He changed the voice because of that. But that wouldn't explain why in Ground Zero is not Big Boss. Probably there was a third chapter. Probably, the fact that he introduced Liquid and never calls him Liquid. Never ever. This is never named as Liquid.
I mean, because Liquid it's not his real name. It was code named Liquid in his missions. Probably his real name wasn't even Liquid back then. Who knows?
Exactly. And I don't know. I think Konami took the project because this would have never been released. Probably there was something odd that I think Kojima was lost in his own bubble.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it does it a lot. And this thing about creating hypes, it doesn't get me anymore. Like, that's why I didn't play the Stranding, because look at this. This ending is amazing. Like, he's basically showing the guy is not Big Boss. He look at himself and he believes he's Big Boss, but then in the mirror someone else is reflected.
I think it turns out you were a lame doctor all along.
Yeah. And what I found, like, also when they say he was your best man, like, who the fuck was this guy? If he was the best man, he would have been on the field, period. And second, when you look at the video, if you replay Ground Zero, the doctor is not there. He's added, but he's not there. He's not in front of Big Boss. So he's been added. And that's cheap. They could have done something else, but I think it was...
All the plot is cheap. All the game, it's cheap game.
What did the trick first mission, last mission, character. You're not playing as Big Boss. Surprise! Did that work for you?
I mean, the theories following the release of Ground Zero, the Phantom Pain that we followed, were all about this guy is not Big Boss. We knew that for a certainty at that point.
I'm glad I missed those then.
Yeah, but they were just theories. Just the same theories you probably could have thought about just watching the trailers.
Yeah, I have not even the trailers. I skipped all those trailers.
Yeah, you
but
skipped
I
all.
deducted them pretty fast.
Oh yeah, exactly. So we knew that it wasn't Big Boss. It was just a matter of who is this guy. A lot of fans speculated this is Gray Fox. A lot of others speculated this is there was a bunch of other names thrown in there, but Gray Fox, which is Frank Yeager, was the one that had the most of the attention. But at that point, whoever this guy was, was fine as long as the plot made sense to some extent. So when I started playing the game, I already knew he wasn't Big Boss. But the very first few minutes that you see the other character with the same Kiefer Sutherland voice actor, like with the same Kiefer Sutherland voice, moving like Big Boss would move, as you said, something is, incredibly in front of your face wrong. And so immediately you keep playing the game, but you know that something is odd. And there was a lot of theories too back then, like the fact that when you walk around, maybe it's because of its metal arm, it does a very robotic, like this guy moves in a very noisy way. It has all the mechanical noises when he moves, and a lot of people actually, theorized that it was an actual, like a robot or something. So the theories were around, but we knew he wasn't Big Boss for certainty. But then when the last mission hit, it was not that amazing, and not that disappointing, because we were, my eyes were already wide open at that point. So the trick didn't work for me. And also, again, getting back with the voice actors, I was sure I could have died swearing it, that we would have had a young David Hayter playing a young Solid Snake appearing and having to face him dying, possibly, and having the game ending right there. So that's why I was sure there's something wrong. That's why the voice actors are different. That's why this is happening. And I had all of these things laid down for me, so much so that a lot of people actually kept asking David Hayter if he was in the game, and he always said no. Of course, he always said that he got on a dinner with Konami, and they said they didn't want him. But it's a Kojima game. It's a game. It's an hyped game. So he could be lying. He could be playing along with us.
Speaking of lying and playing along, what we're looking at is a trailer where it goes like the missing link that completes the saga. One of those
bullshit.
This is not bullshit. Kojima though. I think this is Konami, because he always said that. Of course, but Kojima said that the game was completed with the fourth. I remember that. So
it's probably,
of course it is.
Yeah, it's probably Konami. I'm sure.
The fourth because it is the lasting storyline order. It's the one that is set in the most future. But they were trying to say that this game is gonna link it back to Outer Heaven, which it didn't.
It didn't. With all the things you wanted to complete the saga, the list of what people asked was, why did we kill Big Boss twice in a 30-year-old video game? Nobody really asked that. Nobody really wanted to have that answer.
It didn't.
Yeah, I would have loved to see. Nobody cared. I would love to see Big Boss, whichever one of the two, just fighting Snake. Just because we know after 3, we know why he became evil. The boss was betrayed by his country, so that's why he said, okay, I'm gonna make my own country now. We're gonna make our own rules. The military will lead. Yada yada yada. So we don't need to know
one of the
stuff.
things that annoys me is really the missed chance of being able to see the transformation. In Metal Gear Solid 3, we see Big Boss becoming sort of a free man against his country. So he goes He goes, he starts his own army because he could see that, he was fighting the wrong cause as shown by the boss and the sacrifice of the boss did. So he decides to, do his own army, as you said, and do his own nation. But then in this game, I was expecting to see how Big Boss becomes how he becomes responsible of Les Enfants Terribles, how he grows the clones, and how he becomes evil, holds a nuke, wants to bomb the world, and wants to blackmail the governments, how he transforms into a proper villain. And I wanted to learn about his causes and his enemies and his struggle, his own transformation. And instead we didn't get that. Instead we got the sort of mysteries with this impersonator and the horn. The fact that the horn grew was completely unnecessary. At some point you see the horn growing taller and bigger, and it's supposedly a big thing because those shots appear again in one of those trailers at the end of chapter 1. You see those things and you're like, oh my god, look at that horn, something's gonna happen, the fucking head is gonna explode, something. And no. And
too bad.
And instead at some point it smashes a mirror.
I think maybe
fast forward to the future, you're gonna play cassette tapes, he walks back into the fog and he's, yes, I am Big Boss impersonator until Snake will kill me. But we don't know what happened to the kids, we don't know anything about this. We don't even know what happens to him. We literally don't know what happens to the impersonator for the next 10 years. And I think I'm close to wrapping up this episode. I'm gonna let you guys put out there anything else that you want to say that we haven't really mentioned yet.
One thing on the thing that Mick touched, the fact that this is Gay Fox. I have no idea how Fan could pull that theory because I watched it.
Nah, it was weird.
It's weird. Like, anyway, this guy dies in Metal Gear, so if it was him, he would have been dead. Whereas he dies in Metal Gear 2. That's the first thing. The other thing is like which is an inconsistency with the game. How come Gray Fox was the best soldier that Big Boss had, and in this game they tell you that you are the best man he ever had? So there is something that doesn't add up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think
if you do play OPS though, which is not directed by Hideo Kojima, and Hideo Kojima, so because of that, because Hideo Kojima is kind of a prima donna in those sense. So Hideo Kojima says that everything that came out of that game is not canon, but I don't agree. You meet Frank Yeager in that game, and he starts to fight alongside with Big Boss. So we might imagine that Frank Yeager followed the real Big Boss, and he was really the true favorite soldier of Big Boss, while this guy was just a decoy. I think this guy was fooled because this guy was a military medic. This guy wasn't a soldier. He wasn't the best man of anyone. Like, this guy was just used by Big Boss. But
he's introduced like he was the best man you had. So that's part of the story. It's not, even if he wasn't, we need to take it as granted because Kojima is narrating that. I don't know. I think that to wrap it up for me at least, then it's really about Kojima pissed off of the water closet this time, and it was. He couldn't fight his own ego, and he lost the battle. Period. And Konami took him off. Chessmate. Konami made Chessmate, and this was a difficult moment for us to play the game. Who lost here is not Kojima, because Kojima worked for Sony and Konami still owns the brand. Who lost this battle is us.
Sure.
And it's not about the phantom pain effect that he bullshit about. That's not real. Probably this is what he had in mind, but in another way, not in this one.
I do agree. I like the last thing that I want to say. Sorry.
Go ahead.
The last thing I want to say is that the thing about your like big boss most trusted soldier, it probably comes around from the fact that this game really delves into the meta of video gamer. So like the fact that you create your own avatar, the fact that you are the big boss impersonator, it's just because the game wants to wink at you, saying that, see, you are Big Boss best man. You, the player who played Big Boss before, you are his favorite. You're playing as Big Boss, but you're not Big Boss. And I get it. It's okay. It's lame and like the effort is minimal, but it kind of makes sense in its own way, in the Kojima own way. But if you count that we already have that in Metal Gear Solid 2, like we play as Raiden, and that's why I like Metal Gear Solid 2. We play as Raiden because this is the meta of we the player, which are Raiden that moment, fighting not as a Snake, but alongside with Snake. So we are fighting with our mentor, with our favorite hero that we've been playing, and Raiden also has been playing as, because Raiden has been trained in VR playing as a Snake, doing Shadow Moses, or I think it's Shadow Moses or other incidents. So it's all a meta about we the player playing the game in the game, and he already pulled that out in Metal Gear Solid 2, poorly, but he pulled it out, and we didn't need it here again. And just to end it up, David Hayter is and forever will be Solid Snake, Big Boss, and Kiefer Sutherland definitely was not on its, that was definitely not his job at this point, and I'm sorry for him because he's an amazing actor. And it's kind of sad if you think that the original Japanese voice actor wasn't changed. Only the English original voice actor.
The Japanese had not changed, so
it's the same
the
guy.
logic of changing it for English is a bit.
It's just because Hideo Kojima wanted an
preferences
American actor
more than anything, and
Hideo Kojima apparently hated David Hayter because we don't really know why. But
never
it's not
invited him. Yeah, I've read about this stuff.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that happened, and it's weird because David Hayter is a beautiful person, and also we owe him the voice acting of Metal Gear Solid 3 because it wasn't supposed to come out in English. We owe him so many of the adaptations from English to Japanese because sometimes some Japanese developers, you guys know this, want to translate a game from Japanese to English too much literally, and it wouldn't really make sense. David Hayter was really fighting alongside and calling Konami allegedly in Metal Gear Solid 1 era for changing some of the adaptations. So it's a shame that not only us have lost a franchise, but even a good voice actor that really put his heart and soul out there was replaced by Kojima's ego.
Yeah, that's the point as well. Yeah, it's a great point. Many people blame it on Konami. I blame it on Kojima, and this is a testament of it. Like, how can you be? How can you heart David Hayter who put so much into the character? And the Japanese version, I didn't consider that the voice is the same, so it's even worse. To bring a character that then it will speak like maybe 10 lines, to do a push.
Infuriating how little he speaks.
This is Kojima choices, so it's clearly Kojima that thinks that he can do anything. I think this guy is out of his mind.
By the way,
definitely a good one. It's definitely a good one. A good game. We all know that. But then, if this game was called Kojima Game 1, if this was called Death Stranding, people would have pissed on it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, that's why I'm curious to play Death Stranding as well, as soon as the price drops.
In a couple of years.
Maybe.
Yeah, in a couple. It's already dropped. I don't think it's selling that much. I think they will give it away with PSN Plus. But it's Kojima ego, and then I don't know. It's like tomorrow we release Death Stranding 2, and Norman Reedus is not there because he doesn't think he's an actor. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
Wait, what is that?
Come again?
Did something happen with?
That's a big spoiler, by the way.
No, nothing happened. Calm down, Mick. He was saying, Prosil was only saying like, imagine
I thought there was
imagine
like
if Death Stranding 2 comes out, And
okay,
Norman
okay.
Reedus is not there anymore because he fought with Kojima, or Kojima dropped him, you know.
Also,
Yeah.
Kiefer Sutherland did motion capture,
Well,
apparently for no real reason. And you like, I don't want to diss on him. I love him. He's an amazing actor, and he's
I don't
the
care.
son of another amazing actor. But like, have you ever noticed that when you play as Snake, you see his face doing stuff like that? Like sometimes, like,
No, didn't notice that.
look, like, notice it. I think it was a mocap issue, maybe, or maybe the scars. I don't know.
Imagine how much money is spent for him
Too many.
when he could have had
There
David
are
Ayer.
You could have had, like,
rumors.
3
There are
David Ayer.
rumors of the cost of having the David Ayer on the game. You don't want to know because it's really big.
Is big.
Oh, having Kiefer
Sorry,
Sutherland.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Touch
Oh.
it, touch it.
I think it
Well,
was something
it's-
around $20 million.
More.
20 millions.
You see, because Kojima is like, he like to be fucked with someone else's ass. Like,
He like to be fucked
if I can
with
use this
someone
expression,
else's. Okay.
like this guy is out of his
That's
his
not,
mind.
that's not
Like,
rage. It's just a guess estimate. It's not.
It's just an
not-
assumption. Maybe it's not
true.
that. Maybe it's 10.
Maybe it's only
Still a
5
lot,
millions,
though.
but whatever, mate.
Which is still a lot.
Whatever, mate.
even if he's like, if he's not justifiable for the project, like it's something that would piss off fans, and you taking the risk. And whoever allowed that, it's a criminal.
No, as you
Like,
said,
yeah,
it's
people
not
didn't get
necessary.
mad enough
It's not
for this,
necessary.
honestly.
That's the whole point. And to wrap it up, or to get closing to wrap it up, Metal Gear Solid 5, it's still a game that I would suggest people play. Look at this horn. What the hell? This whole scene.
This scene is not in the game.
The scene is in the game. It's when he's...
Yeah.
Not like that.
Maybe it's slightly different, yeah. But anyway,
Like-
It's also the horn thing.
your own thing makes no sense.
It makes no
would-
sense.
I
Maybe it
think
was a
it's-
cut
it's
content. Like
an
maybe some cut
undercooked-
content made it some other way.
It's
Who
an
knows?
undercooked
But yeah, it made no
feature.
sense.
It's an undercooked feature. They probably had something else in mind to be developed. And again, maybe in the sequel of Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, Metal Gear Solid 5, Outer Heaven, in that game, maybe we would have seen Metal Gear Solid. Sorry, we would have seen, Big Boss become evil. Like, sorry, the Phantom Big Boss, the Venom Big Boss become evil with that horn, and then he probably drops the horn, and then he fights Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid 1 or whatever.
Yeah, maybe he wants to
Whatever.
kill the other big boss too, and the good big
Yeah.
boss.
The problem remains
sent
with
him.
some characters, like the Fireman, which is ridiculous, and the Skid, which... The Fireman is really a cheap addition to the game.
It's
So
cheap.
cheap.
It's all
But
cheap against.
in the first episode, it's amazing. Like it's what keeps you.
Oh yeah, that's the beginning. It's beautiful, but like, doesn't make sense later.
I think that I'm curious, to know more than playing the game. I'm curious to know what Kojima has to say. Why he does not speak.
He doesn't say
cannot
anything about it
anything.
anymore.
He cannot really talk about anything Konami related. I mean, he
Doesn't MDR
say
So you
anything.
ends
think he
after
pissed off
10
Lucid?
years though?
I don't know what's gonna happen with Kojima and if he's ever going to say anything, but I think that he will at some point say something. Maybe he's gonna write a book, something like that. But yeah, let's see what happens. Anyway, guys, is there anything else you would like to touch upon before we wrap up this kind of difficult?
We don't
and
have
long
another 2
episode?
hours.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of more time. We really ran long already, but this is a really necessary and very, very, how can we say, long due discussion and retrospective on Metal Gear Solid 5, which remains a good game, but I'm gonna wrap it up by saying that this game is not as good as Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes shows that the game didn't need to be an open world. It could have been small missions in contained areas with more buildings, with more tapes, tapes are really nice in Ground Zeroes. They really take the story from one angle, then from the other guy, then from the other guy, and you really learn a lot in Ground Zeroes through the tapes. I've pretty much finished the game 90% completion rate. I've listened to all the tapes of Ground Zeroes, and trust me, when you listen to all the tapes, it's really a beautiful experience, and I did not add that same return from listening the tapes in Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain. For me, Ground Zeroes is probably one of the best games of the PlayStation 4 generation, and it's an incredible experience. And Metal Gear Solid 5 probably just goes on a tangent and seems to be doing so much more, and then it gets crashed by its own ambition, which never gets fulfilled because of Konami reason and Konami business reason and scope, problems of projects getting out of scope and getting out of control, and the original creator having to flee to a new career. That wraps up my take. Do you guys want to add anything? Or do you guys have anything to add to what I've said?
No, I do agree, and I hope that after this and after the zombie fiasco, this is the end of
I think
the saga.
I was mourning for a couple of weeks after finishing this game, and I am past the mourning phase, and I have accepted the fate of Metal Gear Solid, and I am happy that it finished in terms of storyline. It finished with Metal Gear Solid 4, which remains a better game. Metal Gear Solid 5 as a Metal Gear, not as a game in absolute terms, but as a Metal Gear, it's a better Metal Gear. 4 is incredible if you look at, just the cutscenes and everything. I like the way it is, and this game isn't that way. But it's, it's an unfulfilled promise that remains charming in many ways, and I've said everything I have to say. Prosil?
I agree mostly on everything. We could add bits and pieces, but I think the big concepts are there. No, nothing much. I think we'll see Konami doing some remakes or something will happen with that. Yeah, but I mean, anything we could add could be redundant in any way. It's okay. It's still a game that I enjoyed. Like, I played it for 2-3 months. And I know people that play the game and never played the rest of the saga love this game because the final twist that I didn't expect it. So this is a really no Metal Gear fan game probably, but it's a game.
This part is not in the game.
Yeah.
This part is not in the game.
But that one, yes.
Sorry, this one. And this one.
Allegedly, we're also supposed to come back to Camp Omega.
We were supposed to come back to the location of Ground Zeroes, which never happened.
It never happened. A lot of stuff never happened. This game, I think we can learn so much from the failure of this game more than we could have ever learned from its success. And, I stopped watching trailers after that, so...
It's one of the few games where you have good horses, though.
It had good horses for its time, yes. Yeah, it remains some sort of unfulfilled promise, and it's a shame to see that already in 2013 they had a lot of the final cutscenes already in place. So they were probably working on a lot more that we never saw. This part is pretty epic. Again, it goes to speak for the Hideo Kojima's ability and Kojima
this is probably the best cutscene ever.
Kojima Productions' abilities to put together incredible cinematics and incredible storytelling, but then everything falls flat later on.
Imagine if he spoke and it said something amazing there.
Actually put something like 2 sentences together. That would have been amazing.
Well, it does say, like, when they say Diamond Dogs will bring them in the battle. I think I like the part.
But like, the old Snake would have talked for like half an hour and would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
This part is probably not the scene.
No.
I'm researching one thing, but basically, This highlights weak points from Kojima, because now that I remember, their biggest right and left arms of Kojima in Metal Gear 1 and 3 are not in this game.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not a mere coincidence that the second one as well is a bit of a not flop but odd. And probably this highlights Kojima's limits.
Everybody who's worked with Kojima said that he's not by any means a good or even decent writer. He has just some ideas that are nice and they can be worked with. And as you say, most of it's like the good old writers that were with him left the boat, and you can see it because the game has been written by a 5-year-old kid, honestly. Like, the concept have been worked better, but I could write a better story.
Well, then you gotta contact Hideo Kojima, because he needs to fix that Stranding apparently. And we're gonna we're gonna wrap it up with that, guys. It's been a while. Is there any last wishes that you wanna had? Not really last wishes, but really last statement.
I wish I hadn't played this game.
Last statement that you wanna append to our retrospective of Metal Gear Solid 5. Is there anything else you wanna close with?
I think we said it all.
We said all. We've said it.
Oh, can I say one last thing, actually? Because I know that I have some moments from the previous games. Is there one moment from this game that you recall fondly? Like a scene?
Yeah.
A cutscene, a voice line,
Absolutely.
something?
Quiet, showering and stuff like that.
Okay.
I think the scene where they rape Quiet, they try to rape her, is amazing. It's a very well shot.
Oh yeah,
scene.
The way it's shot and all the action and the fighting is always really nice and on point.
Yeah.
But in terms of remembering fondling a sort of pivotal moment of the game, I'd like to say that there were memorable moments, but instead the game as memorable moments and they are memorable for how flat they were. And I'm talking about moments that will be memorable for being so useless, such as the car ride.
Oh my god, that car ride.
Oh yeah,
It was so
I
cringy.
mean, seriously, what is this?
It was so fucking
And that's
cringy.
like 6 minutes. You play the whole song.
That's
it's
probably the moment that I will always forever remember
so
about
if
this
you ask
game.
me if I remember fondling, well, I remember this I remember. I don't know if it's fondly, but I do remember this part, as in like I was going like, wait, what is going on? It's so anticlimactic because you finally face to face with Skullface, and again completely drawn out. You are completely drawn out of Big Boss, and Skullface himself is drawn out of himself. This is sort of character for him. Even
And all of a sudden he's like, well, I found this virus,
like
and if you speak a language,
and
usually
this is the part of the story where you really get to know the backstory of your villain, and you start to sort of feel sorry for him, and then you kill him. And so you sort of feel, you pity him at the end. After having to kill him, you pity him because you had just learned about this side of the story, his truth, his background, and this doesn't happen. There is silence. Both characters, they are taken like ghosts out of their bodies. This Big Boss is not even Venom at this point. It's just so pointless. And Skullface is just some sort of retired pensioner that moved to Portugal to live easily in the back of this car. I don't know what to say anymore about this moment, but yeah, we can wrap it up.
Yeah,
I think you also need to justify the 9 years have passed for Skullface as well. What he has been doing in these 9 years, just standing there waiting for this Salentrobus.
He acquired a psychic kid, and he bought he has a mecha.
Absolutely.
What else you want? That makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, how he acquired the kid and how he intends to use it was never really fully explained. But I mean, the mechanics of finding it and discovering the kid, and you know, it's a bit of a strange kid. You would expand a little more on the concept, right? Anyway, guys, I would like to thank you for your time. This has been a very long episode, and for anyone watching this on YouTube or Spotify, thanks a lot for hanging out. It's been beautiful, and I want to wrap it up by inviting you all to follow us on Talk Too Late podcast on Spotify, Talk Too Late on your Mac, on your iPad, on your iPhone, and on your Apple Watch. And follow us on Facebook. You can find us at Game Too Late on twitch.tv at Game Too Late. And you can also find our guests HeadacheMik on Twitch and Prosil You Play Too Much on Twitch. Do you guys want to add anything?
Oh, plugging our
Maybe
channels?
if you want to.
Oh, sure. Come and see me. I'm twitch.tv/HeadacheMik. I try to play old games, but not all the time. And I don't speak with this funny voice ever, because it's not a funny voice.
Good. Prosil?
So you find me at twitch.tv, Prosil You Play Too Much. Mostly a completionist. I'm trying to, big challenge now is getting 100 platinums before the end of 2020, which I should 2021 before, but I want to kill it 2020.
Cool. Good luck with your mission. I think you're on track for obtaining.
Oh, you can do it.
Obtaining 100.
It's 12 more. I don't know. 12 more.
Oh, you can do it.
12 more. You have quite a few. I mean, that's not even updated. How many platinums do you have now?
88 or 89.
Sweet. I'm gonna wrap it up,
I
guys.
got 80 every 5.
I'm gonna wrap it up again. Today, the 10th year anniversary of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. We've talked about the spiritual sequel Metal Gear Solid 5 today. This has been a great episode. It was long overdue, and we've done it, and it's now past. It's behind us. We can move on with our gamer's life. Thanks everybody for watching, and you guys take care. I'll be seeing you in 2 weeks or in a week from now. Yeah, in a week from now on our YouTube channel. Follow us and support us, guys. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.